Welcome to SF Commercial Property Conversations with Bruce Bean, where Bay Area investments meet expert insights. Get ready to unlock the strategies of commercial real estate success.
So today we have Steve Lombardi with us. And Steve, it's great to have you. I'm just very excited to talk about construction costs in San Francisco and a little bit about development. So let's begin. How did you get to where you are now in construction?
Oh man. Well, first off, great to be here. So my story I think is pretty standard. I actually didn't get into it out of college. I have a degree in economics and finance, and then as I got out, met some people in the trades, met some people who were doing the GC stuff, and then transferred, got into it, worked for 7, 8 years at Skyline and some other construction management work, and then picked that up, started working on my own. People were coming to me for advice, and then over 2 years, kind of realized I had the opportunity to step out on my own, took the risk, started LPD, and here we are today.
Here we are today. And so you're staying in the kind of non-union world, so to speak, staying
Yep.
out of that. So give us a little description of how that works.
Yeah, so we do about 90 some odd percent of our work is union. We will do small union jobs and we pick up, obviously we're working with the union trades. SJD Drywall is a great partner of ours, and some other ones where we get called into those specialty jobs that we have a relationship with the landlord or the CM or the broker. But the majority of our work is non-union, and we focus on that niche outside that 6 block radius of Market Street in San Francisco, and that massive amount of real estate assets that exist throughout South San Francisco and San Francisco. So on the whole, you're working with a different type of vendor. And it is kind of a middle ground that not a lot of people operate in, right? As a general rule, when GCs and subcontractors hit a certain size, either by employee count, revenue, sophistication, however you want to define it, they go union at some point just because of the valuation. And we've kind of fought against that, where we're really focused on this niche to operate in the Bay Area right now and to focus on providing really good value, really good sophistication, all the means and methods that you get from the bigger GCs, and delivering that in the non-union sphere. There's not a lot of that exists right now.
Yeah, so the market is starting to pick up again. So San Francisco and AI, you're seeing a little bit more of that going on.
Yep. We're definitely getting called in to price those jobs. I think the predominant first wave definitely is picking up in the city. Some other contractors are doing like 10 floors for Anthropic in a couple buildings, and there's that large push. But we're seeing that fall out across a lot of the stuff we've been priced. Several jobs on Harrison Street, different types of AI companies in different capacities. But it's nice to see that wave transfer through. And it's given a lot of the brokers we work with, a lot of the construction managers, property managers, stuff like that. It's nice to see that wave trickle over, because it is giving demand to spaces that we didn't see 2, 3 years ago. So the timing on RFPs, how much stuff is staying leased, how quickly and accurately they need numbers, we're seeing that pick up throughout most of our projects, which is really great to see the city come
So
back.
you're seeing some retail work out there also.
Yep. Yeah, we see a fair amount of retail work as well. I would say that's slower in terms of just the number of jobs defined by contract value or numerical estimates we're providing, but it is seeming to be a wave that's carrying through the city. I think the big question everybody's asking right now is, how sustainable is it? Is this going to be the new normal? Is it going to increase, or are we, riding the top of the wave? And if I had the answer to that, I'd be in a great position. But we're happy to be where we are.
You get into the industrial world at all?
We do. So our predominant pitch right now, or how we separate ourselves, is we're really value based, right? So we have real estate connections, and I have a background in real estate as well as many of the PMs here. And so a lot of the value we have is working with developers, people who are NOI focused. And that's part of the non-union pitch, right? So if you have a light industrial building, we're doing a basic renovation to it. That's doesn't have a lot of inherent risk to it. We're able to push that ROI for our clients at a much higher rate to get them better numbers and to help that development in San Francisco, versus just going like, hey, it doesn't matter how big the job is or how small it is. We're going to use union labor. You're going to be billing 75, 85, 100, $200 an hour, depending on the trade and all that other stuff. So that touches industrial. that touches retail, that touches, we see some ground up renovations or some kind of a ground up rebuilds. We're doing two of those right now. And, a lot of the spaces throughout, right? Now, obviously, it doesn't touch that premium Class A office space right off Market Street. That's still a very defined, well-regulated sector, would be unions and their standard GCs and all of that. But everything else is pretty much free game for us to come in and just add more value than there's, the other big players we compete with.
Multifamily?
We don't touch multifamily right now, just mainly because multifamily, most of that work is going to be new coming out of the ground. So one, if you're going through, say, we looked at 32 units coming out of the ground in Oakland.
Mm.
The city's going to have some pretty long and strong regulations around coming out of that build, the lending requirements, and then also just who's going to be doing the work. So the cities, depending on the scope of work, are going to push union versus non-union trades. In ground up situations, a lot of times they're going to push that union labor, right? It's high risk work. There's a lot going on. It makes the cities look good. And so they're going to force those requirements. So we don't touch as much of that work.
So occasionally it sounds like you get into the ownership side also.
Yes, we do get into the ownership side. That's again that unique cost proposition, right? Us having non-union connections, but then being able to back them up allows us to build, say, 75% under or 75% of the set cost of like a union GC. So when people come to us and say, "Hey, look, I've got a 20,000 square foot project coming and I need to hit this number because I've got two tenants in tow based on, X amount on however they have that lease structured. Maybe it's industrial gross or triple net or whatever that is. We can come in and stand by that build process. And in certain unique situations, it allows us to partner with the builder. Now that or the developer. That can be a tricky game because it becomes like how are you structuring your cash draws? Obviously, as a GC business, we're focused on, like every other GC business, what are your cash flows, how are your payment terms, and how do we transfer that down to our subs? But in certain situations, it's led to some really great results. Yeah.
Well, do the subs sometimes join in the ownership side?
We do not do that.
No.
Usually we cut it pretty clean at us. Certain situations have come up, but it can create a sticky situation when you're involving some subs and not, and then how do we handle downstream financials of stuff like that? So we'll take that position as the GC occasionally, and then usually we'll hard cap it. We don't pass that on. We don't even usually tell the subs there's anything different going on. From their eyes, everything flows the same.
So it sounds like things have been pretty busy, and obviously judging the crystal ball, it's hard to predict what exactly is going to happen out there. Are you seeing some issues with interest rates affecting your ability to do projects?
Yeah, so the interest rate, it's a great question. So the interest rates can be a double-edged sword.
Mm.
When it comes to financing projects, which is something we predominantly see on the developer side, some owner, if they have a large renovation, they're going to try to finance it. That can be more of a drag coefficient. I I don't think I'm only aware of one deal that's been capped or paused indefinitely because of the interest rates going on, but we see a drag coefficient put on projects, right? So, if you're pulling a $2 million construction loan or three or five or 10, whatever the number is, the risk that you're having to take on with that interest, be it delays in construction and extending on the construction period. So the more interest you owe during your loan process or your draw process, that risk the owners are being much more calculated about. So we're seeing more push to get tenants in tow to build out the job for tenants before they get in, before they occupy the space as a risk deference method. So that's really where we see it. We don't see as many projects get started and then fall apart. I think it's not something that rises and falls as quick over the project durations we're working with. If you're, pulling 250 units out of the ground in, South San Francisco and rates go up because you have a 2.5 year pre-con process, that is much more where those projects live and die, right? On paper before they get into, a groundbreaking or a renovation stage.
Well, it sounds like the market is pretty good right now in that you can pretty much hit your schedule in terms of completion dates and so forth.
Yeah. So what we do is again that comes from having a lot of control over the subs that we use, and we work with a pretty specific set, right? These subs that deliver these non-union prices and this good cost value, but can still deliver, can still man up, can still, they know how to go through the formal processes, and they're, not cowboying it, as you might hear that phrase thrown around in the industry. Um, on the whole, right now, I love the position that the business is. Like we have the opportunity to push to go union pretty much whenever we want. That day may or may not come, but right now with the way the market's sitting, with yes, sure, you have your $500 million assets. There's still great, there's still that premium demand for grade A office space. If you're a Fortune 500 company, I did a bunch of build outs for Amazon back in the day. Um, but there's billions of dollars in assets in San Francisco where you have people, family offices that are making math, trying to make this math pencil on maybe space that's been vacant for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years since COVID. And there's a wave of just simply liquidity pouring into the Bay through multifamily housing driven by, OpenAI is bringing employees in that we see, demand for grade A multifamily. Again, we're not touching those renovations, but that trickles through, right? And so this whole asset class in San Francisco that I don't call it B because they're very, very nice buildings, but is outside of that prime grade A market stretch, they're trying to make this pencil and being in a position to deliver, we're seeing the demand increase, and I'm pretty bullish on the city.
So I'm curious how often you're getting into a bidding war versus a negotiated contract.
Most of our work is negotiated.
Yeah.
Because there's we're not really bidding against too many people, right? It takes a pretty extensive built out shop to go through this pre-con process, right? Um, And if there's a set of drawings, if they send those out to most of the big GCs, we bid against some bigger contractors or some big union shops. Like I simply can take their lunch. I know executives at, Webcor, B&B. I came
Right.
from Skyline, so I love the Skyline crew. They're phenomenal contractors, but their general conditions are like 185 an hour, right? I don't
Right.
need to push that. Their
Right.
union electrician is rolling at whatever they're, I think these $225 or something. Um, and so it's just a value proposition that we can bring that they can't match. That's just the way our company's built. They're built to do, $500 million, $750 million in that prime block, and that's where they compete. And so we don't really steer out of our lane and try to take their work. They're not going to deal with that. And at the same note, if they try to come into our world, I'm very happy to compete, but they don't compete with me for a reason.
So give us a little clue as to what your typical process would be, where you come in to give numbers. I mean, I'm sure you want to come in as early as possible, but give me a scenario where you typically
Yeah.
like to head.
I would say something that we see more and more, especially given the money that's coming into San Francisco at this stage at least, is you have owners and that usually these are longtime owners, right? These aren't assets, and I say assets, I mean these buildings haven't traded recently, right?
Hmm.
And so they've been established. They've been, hey, look, we're riding it out at 55% occupancy or whatever the number is. And we have this space and we're starting to see this heartbeat start pumping more and more. And we're getting maybe, I think we can get some interest. And then that's when we usually get involved because we're that bridge between, hey, I'm going to spend $50,000 and get a full set of SDs done for a potential tenant, which, that's a lot of money that they're going to write a check for with really no proposition.
Right.
And
Right.
on the flip side, you can't call a builder in that's too small because they're going to be like, oh, what do you want me to build? So that's our niche, right? So we'll get an owner call us up saying, hey, I have 5,000, 6,000, 10,000 square feet running at 55% occupancy. I got two tenants that are kicking the cans on it because some broker showed it. What do you think's going to get it there? And so at that point, it's combining that real estate background of like, okay, what are you looking for? Is this like a carpet and paint shell? Are we building out full MEP systems, warm shell, cold shell build? What are the requirements? And then guiding them through that pre-com process to a point where I can say with about 85% accuracy, you're going to be able to build this space out for about $165 a square foot. Here are your tenant-driven amenities, right? So if the tenant wants, I don't know, whatever they want, increased acoustic, yeah, They want acoustic coverings on the wall, or they want a break room that's customized, or whatever this tenant wants to see. And then the landlord can sit and make a relatively accurate decision based on high level financials without having to go through the process too much.
So
That
I'm
point we
curious.
pick it up, we recommend an architect. Oh, sorry. We recommend
Yeah,
architect,
yeah,
and then
no,
it's
that's
just the build
yeah.
process like normal.
Oh, that's interesting. You'll recommend an architect.
It depends. The architects
Yeah,
recommend us, we'll recommend an architect. But
yeah.
again, there's just so much value that we can create because all of these construction companies, all of the big GCs, all of the big architects grew. If you look at I can speak to Skyline, but David Hayes, CEO of Skyline, and then Jessica after, they did a fantastic job of growing that company, right? But they built that company through the bull run pre-COVID, and
Right,
that's
right.
how they do it, and that's what they do, and they're still growing. They're doing fantastic, but they're not designed, nor would they want to take on that pre-con. And every other commercial TI general contractor in San Francisco is built the same way. They do it. They operate in that category. And so, with this value disconnect between working with just union subs, working in this, stretch off market, there's just this gap that exists. And it's being exacerbated as the union increases rates, as, you see this separation grow. There's the gap that we're trying to fill.
So I'm curious whether you run into a situation where the owner says, "Hey, we need this done, but we'd rather not go through the permit process."
Uh, all the time. And it's
Oh,
some point,
oh
all the
boy.
time, unfortunately, right? Or they don't know and they're asking. Um,
Yeah.
it's honestly usually a pretty short-sighted way of going about it. If you ask the city if you need a permit, they're pretty much always going to say yes. And those are the rules we follow, right? You're not getting a lot of value by ignoring the permit process. Permit fees, for what you risk in doing an unpermitted build, delays to your schedule, having a tenant come back and say, "Hey, we have issues," all of those things, we always guide our clients. It's not worth it.
Yeah. No, it's just a high risk. I mean, you can lose your license, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. We
Yeah.
get flagged, all of these things can come up where it's like,
Yeah. Just a real uh not worth the risk to go through.
and that comes with dealing in this, that value zone describe.
Well, so just out of curiosity, how long does the permit process usually take?
Oh man, that depends on your project. And I know
Yeah.
that's the same owner, same answer my team and everybody gives every owner and they always hate it. But it's true, right? We we just did a job in the Richmond and we had pre-approved plans. We went in. We worked with RMW Architects, and a fantastic shop, one of the better shops in the city. And they did a great preliminary process. They did a whole pre-review, everything, and the city flagged the plans because we didn't have an ADA lift to the third floor. Shouldn't have been
Oh,
needed. The team did everything right, and even in that situation, right, job gets halted. We have to cut in, drop a shaft through
oh
the
no.
concrete third floor
Oh
mezzanine.
God.
Yeah, it was a very expensive lift.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and so it really comes down to the complexity of your project and what you're trying to do, right? As a finishes renovation, you can go OTC. We defer the MEPs. Hell, we can do that in a week probably. You know, uh, full over the build with health department review, fully engineered set. You could be talking a month plus.
So I'm curious, how much did that lift cost? I mean, I've seen numbers anywhere from, well, 250 to 300,000 to,
Yeah, it was about I think it was about 250, and I'd have to double check that, but
yeah,
yeah,
but
that's about
yeah,
what it
it's
is. Yeah.
not cheap.
No, because you have the full elevator permit process. Yeah, integration, structural. It gets expensive. We see actually a lot of ADA driven repairs.
Oh,
A lot of
yeah.
that goes around the city.
Well,
Yeah.
how often do you get caught where you get your project's permitted and then the ADA folks come in at the end and say, "Oops, well, maybe this lift thing was part of that."
Yeah, it happens. I mean, obviously maintaining ADA is critical for every build process, and we're responsible for making sure that gets built out for what's on the drawings and what's not on the drawings.
Mm,
Um, I would say for the most part, inspectors have a pretty good, they have a working relationship with us. And if something's not the way it is, it very, very, very often is because we've had to design it in a way to comply with that, right? So
Yeah.
we actually ran into the same problem where we didn't have a standard ADA bathroom, but we couldn't move a brick foundation wall, right? And at some point, the city has to realize that they're working within the means. Some inspectors become very adversarial in that situation. They're like, hey, look, we don't care. Make it 48
Me
inches.
too.
I don't,
Yeah. Make it
yeah.
work regardless. Yeah.
Yeah, but for the most part, the city gets a hard rap, but San Francisco's permitting process is one of the best in the Bay. I mean, I know that's a hot take, if that's the trendy way to say that,
Wow.
but
That's incredibly good news to me.
and that's my opinion. Maybe some other builders out there going like, "What is this guy
Well, and
talking
I think
about?" But
maybe you have a good working relationship with the city, so that helps. Yeah.
the city of San Francisco, like when compared to going into Oakland, when compared to some of the smaller cities on the peninsula. Like for instance, the city of San Francisco doesn't outsource their plan review,
Oh,
right?
that's nice.
A lot of other DBI, like we're down in Milpitas and we have a 10,000 square foot concrete tilt up going there. And a lot of the other cities will outsource that. So you lose that person to person connection.
Right,
And so in
right,
DBI, for all of their, flaws as I would define them, you really do get a person to person relationship there versus some of the other smaller cities. They're like, yeah, we don't care.
right. Just do it right, and
Yeah.
here's
Or I
the
mean, do it as they right as they define it, right?
right.
And
Yeah,
that
right.
can
Yeah,
create immense trickle down process. And that's one of these hard situations that comes up a lot in how we do things because it's a value-based proposition, right? And sometimes you get cities who are willing to work with, they realize an owner has $200 a square foot to spend. And if you push a requirement to upgrade a whole building, that takes this project from realm of very doable to, it's no longer financially feasible. Now, if you're
right,
Amazon moving in
right,
and you really don't care and you've got 5,000 employees that need a seat by June 1st,
right.
these are peanuts. But for this whole mid-tier asset class, they move the needle and they do affect the decision at the end of the day on how to go about the build process.
Well, I think down here in San Mateo, I think San Mateo, the city of San Mateo's, well, they have to become more flexible just because they want to try and get their tax revenues up. So it's a
It is a chicken and the egg,
yeah,
right?
exactly, exactly. It's a tough call, but anyway, well, this has been incredibly intriguing and informative to me. Steve, where can people get a hold of you?
Oh, they can come visit our website. It's LPD Builders, and the development site's called Lombardi Property Development. You can visit us at lombardipd.com, and you can always email us at info@lombardipd.com as well.
Well, I think we should keep track. Construction numbers are moving all the time. I'd like to talk to you again down the road here in 3 to 6 months, see how things are doing.
I'd love to get back on.
All right. Well, great to have you.
That's a wrap on today's journey through the SF commercial real estate scene. Ready to share your story? Visit sfcommercialconversations.com/guest. Your insights could lead the next conversation.